Welcome to this explainer on the progression of divine trust. Today, we're diving straight into some absolutely massive philosophical concepts. We're talking about divine reliance and ultimate contentment. And we're going to unpack this by looking at a fascinating source that details some incredible real-world historical accounts of resilience against, honestly, what look like completely impossible odds. So let's just jump right in and see how ancient traditions viewed the ultimate source of human strength.
And you know, this fundamental question right here really frames our entire journey today. I mean, it's incredibly easy to feel confident when things are going great, right? But what happens when the very fabric of your society turns against you? As we go through the source material, a huge recurring theme pops up. We see these ancient stories of righteous individuals who faced crushing worldly trials, total deprivation, and intense societal judgments, yet somehow they found their unbreakable support completely outside the material world.
Section 1. Trials of False Accusations, Facing the World's Judgment.
So it turns out literally no one is immune to public slander. The source material emphasizes that facing worldly defamation is a really common, almost inevitable trial. It lists these highly revered, spiritually elevated figures, folks from Prophet Yusuf to Hazrat Maryam, who were unjustly targeted by their own communities. And the text makes a super clear point here. If people of this spiritual caliber had to deal with baseless rumors, well, ordinary people shouldn't exactly expect a life completely free of them either. To really illustrate this, the speaker in our source recounts a wild narrative involving Prophet Musa and a ridiculously wealthy man named Qarun. So Qarun, completely refusing to pay his obligatory charity, actually bribed a woman to publicly and falsely accuse Prophet Musa of impropriety. According to the tradition, Musa was just brought to tears by this betrayal, but his reliance on the divine triggered this extraordinary intervention. The narrative describes how the earth itself literally opened up and swallowed Qarun and all of his hoarded wealth entirely.
And this sets up a brilliant pattern that continues way into later history. Take the story of Imam Abu Hanifa, who is this highly respected scholar. Out of pure jealousy, his rivals orchestrated this nasty plot where he was falsely arrested and locked in a room with a woman, fully intending to ruin his reputation before a judge the next morning. But human ingenuity, when you pair it with faith, totally prevailed. He coordinated this incredibly clever plan, where his wife managed to smuggle in her burqa. The unknown woman used it to just slip right out, and his wife took her place. So when the accusers proudly presented them to the judge, they were completely humiliated to find the imam just sitting there with his own lawful wife.
Section 2. Defending the Righteous, Miracles When All Seems Lost.
Now this brings us to those moments where divine help manifests in almost unbelievable, miraculous ways. The source vividly describes the trial of Hazrat Maryam, or Mary. I want you to just imagine the scene. A devoted, pure woman entirely surrounded by an angry mob questioning the legitimacy of her newborn child. Any verbal defense she could possibly offer, it would just be dismissed as a lie. So instead of pleading with the crowd, she simply pointed to her infant in the cradle. And according to the text, the infant, Prophet Isa, miraculously spoke up saying, "I am a servant of Allah, He has given me the scripture and made me a prophet." The narrative suggests that when human words totally lose their power, the divine steps in and provides a voice.
We actually see a very parallel tradition in the story of Jairus, who was a deeply devoted worshiper from the Israelites. His dedication to prayer made him a massive target, and a woman was sent to falsely claim he was the father of her child. The townspeople were so enraged they literally started burning down his hermitage. Just like in the previous story, Jairus realized he was utterly incapable of clearing his own name. So he prayed. And miraculously, the newborn infant spoke up, identifying its true father as a local shepherd. It's like, when you are stripped of all worldly defenses, this higher defense mechanism just activates.
Section 3. The Illusion of Worldly Help. Where do you place your trust?
The text draws a very sharp contrast here. On the left side, we have worldly reliance. Spending your whole life trying to please relatives, building a massive network of favors, or just hoarding wealth. The speaker warns that this is a complete illusion. Eventually, people will disappoint you or turn their backs right when you need them most. But on the flip side, we have tawakkul, unshakable divine reliance. The whole argument is that anchoring yourself to a spiritual connection and the divine will provides this rock-solid support system that never fatigues and never fails.
And honestly, nothing summarizes this better than this incredibly powerful advice imparted by the Prophet to a young Abdullah bin Abbas. He said, "If the whole world gathers to benefit or harm you, they cannot except by what Allah has decreed." It establishes this ultimate paradigm shift. It essentially says, look, stop fearing the plots of your competitors, and stop agonizing over losing the favor of the wealthy. True power over your fate lies solely with the divine.
It renders all human plotting, both good and bad, completely powerless in the grand scheme of things.
Section 4. Miracles and Hardships. Provision from the Unseen.
So this whole concept of divine reliance isn't just about surviving rumors. It's practically demonstrated through historical accounts of survival during extreme physical deprivation. To highlight this, the speaker cites a famous tradition from Sahih Bukhari. It recounts an army expedition led by a commander named Abu Ubaidah bin Jarrah. The expedition was made up of 300 men, and they found themselves completely stranded on the coast, starving so severely that their daily ration was reduced to just a single date. Eventually, they were forced to eat leaves just to stay alive. Picture that, 300 men in the middle of nowhere with absolutely zero logistical support or worldly supply chains left to rely on. But in their absolute darkest moment, providence arrived from the unseen. The tide washed ashore this massive fish. The source describes it as being the size of a small mountain. This single, totally miraculous provision sustained all 300 men for a full 18 days. They even used its fat for medicine and brought some of the meat back home. The explainer uses this to show that when you cut off your reliance on expected avenues, friends, loans, business deals, help very often comes from unimaginable, unseen sources.
Section 5. The Power of Patience, Sabr, and Divine Presence.
Now, unlocking this level of divine assistance isn't just a passive endeavor. You don't just sit there. The text breaks down a very specific 3-step framework for divine intervention. Step 1 is sabr, which means deep, enduring patience the second the trial first hits. Step 2 is istiqamat, standing firm in your convictions despite the crushing, ongoing pressure. The source argues you literally cannot skip these steps. You have to hold the line. Because only after demonstrating patience and firmness does step 3, the actual arrival of divine help and angelic forces, manifest.
And this 3-step process is perfectly exemplified by the harrowing, yet incredibly inspiring story of Hazrat Janira. She was an enslaved woman in early history who accepted a new faith. And because of this, she was physically tortured by a powerful, ruthless chieftain named Abu Jahal. The beatings were so severe that she tragically lost her eyesight. By all worldly metrics, she was totally defeated, broken, and alone. But she absolutely didn't break. When Abu Jahal mocked her, claiming his worldly idols had blinded her, she delivered this absolute masterclass in defiance. She looked at him, faced him, and said, "What power do your idols have to take my sight? If my Lord wills, he will restore it." Her profound tawakkul, her firm patience, and standing her ground completed that exact sequence we just talked about. According to the tradition, she woke up the very next morning with her vision entirely restored, actually leaving her oppressors completely terrified.
Section 6. Achieving Ultimate Contentment, the Concept of Rida.
Moving beyond mere reliance in times of crisis, the narrative of our source material reaches its climax by exploring the absolute highest spiritual state a person can achieve in daily life. The great philosopher Imam Ghazali highlighted a really profound irony about human nature here. He noted that the divine is incredibly easy to please, sometimes even offering forgiveness just because a person gave water to a thirsty dog or cleared a path. Yet humans, we are almost impossible to satisfy. We're constantly demanding more wealth, better status, perfect children, endless comfort. Ghazali teaches that true peace isn't found in getting every single thing you want. It's found in accepting the divine plan without constant complaint.
In direct contrast to our endless worldly ambitions, the text presents the life of Hazrat Bilal as the ultimate masterclass in this contentment, this state of rida. Here was a man who suffered immensely for his beliefs and eventually became highly esteemed, yet he never used his status to demand a governorship, a massive salary, or political clout. He spent his life completely content simply serving his community, sweeping the mosque and calling people to prayer. He found absolute, unshakable peace in his designated role, completely free from the exhaustion of constantly chasing worldly upgrades.
Our philosophical journey through this source concludes with one final, striking narrative. Prophet Musa climbs Mount Tor to converse with the Creator. He goes up there with a very specific mission, to ask what specific, tangible action his people could perform to absolutely guarantee divine pleasure. His people probably expected a list of complex rituals, more charities to give, or harder physical tasks to complete.
But the response from the divine was this profound single sentence: "Tell them to be pleased with me, and I will be pleased with them." No crazy list of grueling tasks. It was simply a mandate to cultivate a heart that is completely 100% content with whatever life brings. To look at your family, your provision, and your trials, and basically say, "I am pleased with the hand I have been dealt by the Creator." The text argues that the very moment you achieve that internal peace with the divine plan, the divine becomes entirely pleased with you.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want you to take a second and reflect on your own struggles. The historical accounts we've analyzed today suggest that chasing the approval of the world is, ultimately, a race with no finish line. But cultivating absolute trust and contentment, that offers an unbreakable inner peace. So ask yourself, will you spend your life endlessly trying to please the world, or will you finally find peace in the divine plan? Think about that for a while and keep learning.